Hello. 31st May 2013 was when I joined Decathlon, and yesterday, 31st May 2021, I have completed 8 years of my professional journey in this amazing company. I wanted to also share during this time a glimpse of my journey. So, some pictures where right from the very beginning of my start, and random pictures throughout my journey of 8 years. I've tried to keep it only for myself because I do not want to violate anybody else's privacy without, so very few team pictures, but those of the pictures have already been shared on Facebook, so I'm not resharing it without anybody's permission. So that's a disclaimer. I've always been an ambitious person. I want to share more about my personal take on being a career woman, and how I see a career. How I see and feel the importance of career. And of course, I respect everyone who makes their own choices, whether they want to be working or not working or self-employed. Really, I respect all the choices, but for me, this what I'm about to share is more about how I feel. I have always seen from my beginning, so I'll take some time to share snippets from my journey. I have most of you who know me know that I'm from Madurai, so not a big city, and I'm from a family where we are three daughters. So I've always grown up with unhealthy dose of patriarchy, and always being told, and listening to comments like people asking my parents, oh, you have three girls and all. So I've always been very resolved and determined that I will be financially independent, and I will be taking care of my parents and looking after my sisters, just like how in this society a son is expected to do. So I was very determined even as a kid. Of course, I was not very vocal about this, but I'm saying what goes on inside my mind. I was very, very clear on this, and I've always had a problem with this kind of gender specific roles, and this kind of cliched upbringing that being a girl, these are important for you, and for boys these are important. So this is what I have always worked towards. So when I wanted to, I've been a good student, and when I wanted to go, but I've also been kind of a rebel. I don't like to do stuff that everybody else is doing. I always want to do something different, and that's how I ended up with NIFT. So even after NIFT, some of my friends, they went on to do PG. I immediately wanted to work because, as I said, I was waiting to taste the sweet taste of financial independence. So I worked for a year, and then everything went for a twist. I worked, and my work was so fulfilling, and I understood that I had some certain talents, and I could actually create some value, and I loved my job. But it was cut short because I had to get married, and I had to relocate like many women do. And unfortunately, this incident of being married and relocating, it put a complete twist to all my plans, all my goals and dreams I had. I was married when I was 21. I had my kid when I was 22, almost immediately, and I had a lot of complications during the pregnancy. And my daughter who was born, she was a very weak baby, and I had a very difficult marriage. So nothing was working in my favor, and I took a conscious decision to step back from. I didn't even attempt. I had started job search, but I took a decision that I will not go to work. I will be a stay-at-home mom, mainly to support Purna and take care of her. I did not want anybody else to do that. So for 8 years, I was a stay-at-home mom, completely looking after my daughter, and I don't regret it. That's a decision I took very consciously. But the dream of being financially independent, having a career, it refused to die. So I kept doing these odd freelance jobs and short-term projects. I kept in touch with different kinds of work. And then at 28, I went back to NIFT, and I went to NIFT Delhi. So that's when the decision to separate and have a divorce, those talks started. I slowly started to think about a future in which I will be a single parent. And then once the decision was made, I was super clear. And then I decided I will settle down in Chennai because I have family here who I needed some support. And I was super clear I will settle down only with Purna. I will again not leave her alone, and it will be the journey, this new journey of life will start with Purna. So I started to search for a job here. I did not sit for my campus placements in Delhi NIFT. And I was just not getting, because the Chennai job market, especially in the chosen field, it was not so good. There were very limited companies, and I kept trying. I did get a few job offers from Bangalore, which I refused, because again I was very clear I wanted to settle down only in Chennai because I wanted to have my daughter. So complications on complications. When I started to look for a job, I'll just draw out the picture for you. I'm 29. I have a career gap of almost 8 to 9 years. House to live in. I have no vehicle, car, bike. I have no big savings. There's no school admission on hand for Purna. Everything has to be planned. So no idea of future. The only thing I had in my hand was self-respect and extreme protective love for Purna, that I will not let my daughter grow up without me. She will have this parent with her, and I will not be sitting as a dependent person in my parents' home. These were the only two things that went in my. I didn't know how I'll get it done. I just knew that I will not compromise on these two things. And I was doing my final project at Chennai, and also simultaneously looking for a job. And when I was warned it will be tough. So my friends, well-wishers, family said, you're going to do everything together. You're going to handle a divorce, you're going to handle being financially independent, you're going to start working. Everything is a huge change. So, do it one thing at a time. And I said no. I don't know how I'll do. I don't have the answers today, but I was just blindly focused on handling it as it comes. And I was like, no, I'm not going to compromise on any of these things. I got a call from Decathlon. It was a thrilling experience for sure. I went through multiple rounds of interview, telephone interviews, personal interviews, an entire day of group discussion, written test, in which I fared very badly because I was not prepared. I was not informed beforehand, and it was a very, very stressful day. I was with a bunch of college students, and nothing seemed to be going in my favor. But in the end, after I tried to be as candid as possible, there were many answers I did not know, and I was upfront about it. And when finally I was given the confirmation, it was surreal, and the day started at 9 a.m. and it ended at 5:30 when I was finally given the confirmation that I can join. I just had tears in my eyes when I walked out of the room, and I went up to this person who was at the reception that time, and I didn't know her well. I had just met her that day. I just went and told, I got the job. I just wanted to say it to someone, anyone, and she was so happy for me, extremely sweet. I still remember, how the entire scene as if it happened yesterday. And after that, when I joined, it was not easy because again, I was handling everything together. I was going through a very emotional phase because the doors was just going about to, be. It was in the process. I was in the process of getting the terms sorted and all, and it was highly emotionally taxing. And this job was extremely taxing too. The role I had was not easy, and there was so much to learn. I was feeling out of touch. I was the older of the lot. There were a lot of younger people in the team, and I felt I am not able to pick up certain things. But I worked every night. I sat down with my laptop to understand it more so that the next day I'll feel a little more confident. I worked all weekends, and on top of it, I had to also search for a house. So I was doing house hunting, and after the house I had to set it up. My friends chipped in. They got me some household appliances, to support me financially. So I did it all by myself, all alone. I handled all of this, and I had to, my sister helped me to find an admission for Purna, and because I had to keep everything ready by the time Purna is moved from Madurai to Chennai. It wasn't easy, and there were times where I completely used to lose it. I used to feel really alone because, of course, there was nobody else in my life who was going through similar stuff. So I could not really relate to anybody much because nobody was a single parent, and it was I just felt sometimes I had just fallen off a cliff and I was just spiraling down this dark hole. And I used to just go for a drive or just go to Besant, the beach in Chennai, and sit till 8 or 9 o'clock, just looking at the waves, and I used to feel a little more calm, and then I used to come back home. It was very overwhelming. It was very exciting. It was very tough, difficult initial phases, especially the first 1 year. It took for me to understand the ropes of the role and what was really expected, the dynamics of this particular office, and there were a lot of insecurities, a lot of insults. I was different. I was not this usual profile of 40 or 30-year-old married woman with a kid. I was divorcee. I was telling people I was divorcee, but I didn't dress in a certain way. I used to dress as I want in quite a flamboyant fashion, and there were some instances where I felt there is this so-called glass ceiling. I did have touch with the ceiling. There were some small successes. There were new skills to be learned. There were a lot of mistakes I made from which I learned. There were some feedbacks received, harsh feedbacks, and there were moments where I broke down while I was working at the office, and I've been through the entire gamut of emotion. I met different kinds of people, and I understood the dynamics, and I learned to overcome my natural shyness, and I took some time to understand people, but after that I learned I have to start speaking for myself. Nobody else is going to do that for me. So I started to slowly learn how to say things, give my opinion in a very assertive but in a very respectful way. And I learned about professional boundaries. I learned to identify people, understand different kinds and levels of egos, and understand my own emotional side, and it took a long time to handle that emotional side professionally and not let it spill into my professional life. Again, I'm not saying this is the best way to go, but this is how I went through. This is my journey. The first step is the hardest. So, why I have taken time, and all this while, imagine on my personal side, there are huge things happening. It's not a picture perfect life on my perfect side, because Purna was moved here, and initially I was staying alone. I had put a person to take care of her while I was working, but that didn't work out. There was some safety concerns. I had to move into my sister's place in a very small house. We all lived together, and then again I had to move to another house. During this time was when the Chennai floods happened. So I was living in a ground floor, so my entire house was flooded. We had to escape. I was stuck in Bangalore that time. I could not be with my family. We lost a lot of things during that time. So after that, we had to again remove into another house. And all of this, from being a financially dependent person, I'm suddenly become the sole earner in the family. And the strength I found for all of this is, I made a decision, and I have the responsibility towards my daughter. I was extremely clear on that, so that gave me a lot of strength. I cannot give up. I cannot compromise. I have to give her a certain kind of life. I have to take care of all the responsibilities of a parent single-handedly. That I was very clear. And the second is the dream from my childhood that actually played out. That's why I say the universe has its own way to make things happen. My resolve that I will be the one taking care of my parents, that actually happened. So my mom first moved in with me, and later after a few years my father also moved in. So we all started to live together as a family here. It's hard, it's not easy. So I had good support system. Fortunately, in terms of my parents, they were available to support me with my daughter. I had my sister, my own sister, who was extremely supportive, and I had a brother-in-law who helped during the initial phase where I was not completely settled. I had the support system. I had a great group of friends who were emotionally always there for me. And I can imagine, for someone who doesn't have all of these, how terrifying it must be. I know many women are still stuck inside really toxic marriages because they are not financially independent, and they are so frightened to walk out because they don't know what they'll do. Maybe, and they don't maybe have their own family supporting this decision. I have seen these kind of cases. I still see, and I totally empathize with those women. It's really hard. It's a really painful life to know that you have to walk away, but not being able to walk away. I'm no one to tell you what to do. It's completely a personal decision. But I can only say, if you're clear, like me, like how I was super clear that I needed to walk away, I needed to end this, and that's the best for my daughter. It's not a loss. It's not a loss for her. In fact, I protected her. That's the decision I took, and I was, till date, I have never regretted that decision. I didn't care what people do. I just decided. I took a lot of time to arrive at that decision, but when I did decide, I didn't worry or change my decision because I didn't know how I'm going to manage life. I didn't let that stop me. So that's all I can say. When you truly believe in the why, the how will kind of work out. Till date, I would not say I have an easy life. There are many challenges I do go, But if you ask me if I regret any of my journey, my answer is no, I don't. I don't regret a single moment. I don't regret a single mistake I made, because it's in the past. I can't go change it, but I do remember all the lessons I learned. And I do take care. I don't keep making the same mistakes. And I spend a lot of time to see what I can do better. Because how another person, even my own family, reacts or behaves is not in my hands. But how I react to a situation, how I plan for my future, and how I handle my emotions are completely in my hands. So that's where I focus my energy. All of this took some time. It didn't happen overnight where I had this awakening or enlightenment. It took a lot of time, a lot of tears, a lot of stress, a lot of anger, a lot of processing. And I would say it's a work in progress every day. If you ask me the top lessons learned, the first step is the hardest. Trust the universe, take the leap. There is no replacement for hard work. On a foundation of hard work, you can then use smart work to increase your efficiency or get the results faster. But the foundation is always hard work. There is no substitute for it. Values center us. So identify your values. For every person, the values are different. So identify your values. What are your principles and values, and align every of your action towards the value. Stand up for yourself. Do not compromise on your authenticity at work, and speak up when in a very professional way, but in an assertive way. Speak up. Do not be frightened of speaking up. You may not be liked by all. You may be labeled as you have an attitude, or you're rude, or whatever. Each person their own, they will look at you differently. We are not getting paid at work to be liked by people, but actually to do the job for which we are paid. So do it with complete responsibility and in a very ethical way, and that's it. And do not ever be okay with patriarchy. Patriarchy is so deeply seated in our own mindsets, in our society. And in my line of work, I visit places where supplier places and all, where I encounter this a lot. I will be saying the same point, but when a male colleague says the point, he will be heard. He will get a reply, but I will not be given a reply. So I'm still fighting it, and I'm also educating some of my colleagues that please be sensitive to this, that this happens. At least notice that it's happening. Don't be completely oblivious to it. So I have started to do this. I have also written some blogs on this. So there are again very assertive ways where you can bring the focus back to yourself and say, hey, I'm in charge here, I'm responsible here, so talk to me. So that's very, very important to not become or not brush off patriarchy saying this is how it works here. It doesn't. We have to change it. And always remember the why you took that first step, why you took on a project, why you wanted to do a certain thing, why you chose to write a certain mail. Always go back to the why. When you start to feel stressed or you start to feel some regret, always go back to the why, and then see if you can change your approach. But the why should be super strong. That's the key before you embark on any kind of journey. And make new mistakes, of course, because all of us are going to be very humble. I'm a very humble person, so I can easily say these are my weak points. These are my areas of improvement that are still ongoing process. But one amazing thing about me is I have learned, again with a lot of difficulty, I don't compare myself with anybody else and say, okay, I'm successful or I'm not successful, or I'm better than them, I'm lesser than them. Nope. My journey has been completely different. My baggage has been completely different, and my starting point has been completely different. So everybody's starting point is different. Everybody's baggage that they carry is different. Some carry very lighter baggage, some carry really heavy baggage. So there's no sense, there's no point in comparison. Let's not compare. You are unique, your journey is unique. Make the most of it and work on yourself first, and work on how you react to situations. Rather than trying to change the situations, try to see how you can first change the way you react and handle the situation. That really helped me. So I hope this journey, this sharing gave some useful insights to all of you. I love being financially independent because it supports my strong sense of self-respect. It supports my need to take care of my daughter. It helps me to take care of my parents, and the line of work I do, I also know I contribute a lot to the lives of a lot of amazing people, the workers in the factories that I work with. So overall, I'm so proud that I work, and that I've been fighting and found solutions, and I never gave up. And that's how I'm planning to be for the future also. I know again there might be a lot of hardships and difficulties, but I'm not planning to give up.